Hey team, on today's episode of the Football Feast, I have Bojan Šobot. Bojan was born in Perth, Australia, and was identified by Barcelona as one of Australia's top talents. Bojan was invited to Masia to train and play with Barcelona's under-15s team. He was also meant to head over to Paris to train with PSG's academy, which was unfortunately blocked by COVID. He's been to academies all over Europe, and he's currently trying to attain his first pro contact. During this episode, expect to hear Bojan's upbringing and his dad's philosophies, the coaching that made him into the player he is, the ins and outs of Barcelona's La Masia, including what training sessions were like and the caliber of players there, what a full-time scholarship at Barcelona's youth academies look like and why he knocked it back, the challenges of making it, what Bojan has faced, and what he recommends to other up-and-coming talents, and much, much more. Enjoy.
All right, guys, this is episode 6 of the Football Feast. I've got Bojan Šobot here. Bojan, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, all good. I'm excited for this podcast.
Nice one. And where are you right now?
I am currently in Serbia. There is a city called Valjevo. It's in Western Serbia. And I'm here at the moment living my best life, juggling uni and football, just living my best life.
Yeah. Nice one. Busy by the sounds of it. So, yeah, I think everyone's going to want to hear your journey. So let's get started from the beginning. So where were you born?
So I was born in Perth, Western Australia, starting at a club. My dad was a football fanatic. And so he would get me at a very young age of 4. He would okay, there's a wall here. Just pass the ball on the wall, do some technical stuff. And I think that's where my talent stemmed from, is from that early age, learning the technical skills, and it would help me later on in life. But when it started from there, like kicking on the wall, and then it stemmed to Subiaco, then that's when my journey began. So Subiaco, it was a good club for me. I spent there until when I was 12 years old. Then I moved to Balcata Football Club. And I moved to Balcata because I heard there were rumors that there were these coaches from England that were going to come to Balcata. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. They're professional coaches, are going to move there. And so I moved to Balcata, and it was an amazing experience as well. They were real professional coaches. They taught me how to communicate, because that was one of the things that I struggled as a kid. I'm usually the person that's I'm just going to show my football ability and that's it. But they taught me that in England, you're supposed to communicate. So when you receive the ball, you're going to scan the pitch. You're going to say oh, there's a player behind you, or pass it back. Those communication, that really helped me when I was younger.
So a lot of on-field and football communication.
Yeah. No. It's very vital. Obviously, a lot of those English phrases I can't use over here in Serbia, but it's basically the same thing, But anyway, yeah.
So what was your dad like? So was he, how some people have the father figure who's really, really hard, I'm making my son a superstar, or was he sort of nurturing?
No, you hit the nail on the head with the first comment. No, very, very tough. He's like how do you call it? He's like a general, like an army general. He's you got to do everything disciplined. You got to do it like this, He doesn't shy away from disciplining me. And that's one of the main factors that made me into the person that I am. Because he didn't shy away from disciplining me really hard. He, in the end, said, I love you as a son and all that, but as a coach, I got to be as harsh as possible. So he really complimented me in terms of football. And you would think, oh, well, that's a bad thing, right? But no, it was really good for me because it toughened me as a person. I'm usually gentle as a person, right? But he made me into a warrior on the pitch. And I've got to really thank him for that,
Dude, do you know, that's an interesting point you actually make, because from our chat so far, that's sort of what I've gathered. Or my feeling of you is you're more of a gentle kind of persona. But when
Yeah.
I seen your highlight reels, you don't come across like that on the pitch.
Oh,
You
no,
look
no, no, no.
like, yeah, you're hard at it. Like, yeah,
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 the one
that makes
thing
sense.
the one thing he's told me is that you can be a nice person and a kind person to everyone, respect everyone. But when you're on the pitch, even if it's your brother, even if it's whoever you know, you just gotta kill on the pitch. You just gotta like absolutely destroy on that pitch. It doesn't matter if it's your brother, it doesn't matter if it's your friend. You gotta get that out of your mind. You're playing football, you're here to win. And
Wow,
that's kind of his methodology that he put on me.
wow, that's solid. Um, what was some of the punishments like? Push-ups or laps?
And it was mainly shunning, honestly. Like I'd come back from
Oh,
like a bad training session and you just not talk to me for like for like a day or two. And I'm there sitting with my own thoughts like, man, I wanna like not be on this like shunning routine. Like I wanna like improve as a person, you know? And so
mm,
it was the absence of a punishment that was a punishment. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just him not like talking. Obviously, he would like scold me and say like this shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, right? But it was more not talking to me that really put my mistakes in a different perspective. Because if he was the one that was talking to me often, then your brain would kind of go into an autopilot and say, okay, I'm just going to listen to him. I'm not going to really think about stuff. If he's
mm,
going to be like, I'm going to let you do the thinking, then it's like, well, hang on. I've done something wrong here. Maybe I can
mm.
improve so he doesn't shun me for like the next 2 days.
Yeah, interesting. So you sort of have to problem solve yourself.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
you're evaluating what just happened and the match or training session or whatever. And in your
Yeah.
head, you're coming up with the solutions to what sort of you did wrong. So yeah, that's pretty interesting.
But the thing is also, he would guide me as well sometimes. So I would obviously ask him questions like, what did I do wrong? Like, am I thinking straight? And he would obviously give me advice, right? But a
Mm,
lot of the times, I'd say like 90% of the time, it was just me and my own thoughts. I was only thinking about football. And I guess that's what creates me like how I am today, you know?
yeah, yeah, very interesting. Um, all right, so yep, you've gone into your first club. Where sort of the journey keep going from there? Did you have any sort of like coaches that you remember at the time that really like sort of helped nurture your talent?
Well, as I said, the English coaches did help me. There was one instance where at training, it was obviously like you play 6v6 or something like that, and the coach would say, "Okay, 2 touches." But for me, this coach, he was blonde. I can't remember his name, but he knew my technical abilities, and he was like, "Okay, for you, 3 touches." And I'm telling you right now, on that like training session, that mini game. I was on fire. I felt like Hazard because at that time, obviously Hazard was like really, really good player. He's playing for Chelsea, and he was like,
Mm,
he was that aura of Hazard, and I was like, I felt like that. I was like dribbling past players, doing those passes, scoring goals. It was just he made me feel different. Everyone else has 2 touches, I was 3 touches.
yeah,
And so
interesting.
that was a coach at Balcata who was really good. So when I moved from Balcata to uh it was to Sterling Lions, yes. It was to Sterling Lions. There was this coach named Fran, and basically the context was I was without a club. So those professional coaches moved on from there. It was only like a temporary thing. And there was restructuring at the club. And I was found without a club. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like my parents are stressing. And this coach, like we played against them in a league match, and he knew me, of course, and he was like, "Why don't you come for a trial?" And unfortunately, before that trial, I fractured my wrist, and
Mm,
so I couldn't, like play at the trial. But he knew how I was and what a talent I was, so he was like, come here. And then like I was there as kind of like an assistant coach, looking at all the players. And he was like, yeah, I'm choosing you. And what do you think of these players? And a really interesting thing about that coach was it kind of ignited within me this passion, not only for football, but for analyzing the game differently. So
Right.
I was usually only used to like analyzing the game as a player. But when I was at that trial, I was thinking, man, I'm like looking at it from a different perspective, from like a coach's perspective, from a tactical perspective,
Yeah.
And he really brought me into that light. He was a really, really good coach. I played Sterling Lions for 2 years. He was only coached for 1 year because of like some other family commitments or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, he really put me in the spotlight. I played really well there as well.
Yeah.
I made a lot of friends. And then the second year, it was a bit difficult for me for club level. But at that time, like in that second year, I went to Barcelona.
Oh,
And
right. Wow.
so to give you context for the Barcelona, I attended Barcelona's like football camps in Allenbrook. So that's like north of Perth, right? And the camps were amazing. In fact, I remember there was one coach, I forgot his name. I'm terrible with names, but he basically went up to my parents and was like, "What you have here, this kid, he's a diamond. Like, absolutely treasure him. He will become a great footballer in the future." And I absolutely destroyed in the camps, right?
And that was one of
Like,
Barcelona's academy coaches?
no, it was actually so the academy coaches were there, but the person I'm talking about was just a regular coach at Allenbrook.
Hmm.
And that's what I found interesting. He was a normal guy, and he really connected with me.
Yeah.
But basically, he told my parents, this kid is a treasure. He's a diamond,
Yeah.
right? You gotta treasure him.
I don't want
And
to
so,
go too quickly to Barcelona.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just sort of to get a picture, because I think it's a really good insight. How often did you train
Oh
as
yes,
a
this is a question I like. So basically, when I was young, like for my whole footballing career, I trained every day. But for my younger ages, I obviously focused more on the technical side because that's what I want to recommend to anyone listening here. When you're young, do not bother with strength training or any of like weights or gym. You're gonna get muscle later on when you like after puberty and stuff like that. When you're young, you need to focus on the technical stuff. You need to focus on passing, dribbling, shooting, whatever. You need to focus on the technical stuff because later on, when you're older, you can't magically learn that, you can't just like, oh, I haven't trained technical stuff when I was younger. I'll try it when I'm older. You can't just do that. It has to be ingrained within you. So when I was younger, I trained basically just technical stuff. And it was with my dad as well. My dad helped me like train individually. So like he would like pass the ball, he would like lob the ball so I can do volleys and stuff like that. He would be the one recording as well. And that's what I liked. He would post it on Facebook, like all my skills and stuff like that. And it was a real like confidence boost as well. That's what
yeah.
I got to say.
So was
But
your dad there every day?
yes.
So
But
every day. So
I
he'd
got
go to work, and after work he'd just be training with you.
so when I was younger, yes, he was there every day. But when I went older, he was almost there every day because he was a mechanical fitter and he would sometimes like depending on like his job and stuff like that, he would go to Bunbury or he would go to Karratha or down to no, down to Bunbury to Karratha or to Darwin,
Hmm.
right? And sometimes he would be away for a week or sometimes a month. Like later on, it would be for a month.
Yeah.
As I got more independent, it didn't really matter that much because I could train myself, right? But when I was younger, he was there every day and he was like really nitpicking on stuff like you got to do this, you got to do that. And
Hmm.
that's what really like set me apart from other kids is that father figure who would be there as a coach and help me with technical stuff, help me with training and stuff. Like he would be like, okay, we're free this afternoon. Let's go to the park. Let's shoot.
Yeah,
So
wow.
that was my younger like training schedule. When I was like getting older, that's when I started incorporating like, well, I still do technical stuff. That's a given, but I started incorporating more like tougher training schedules. So I would increase it to like 2 times a day, every
Yep.
day, basically,
What
morning,
age did you
afternoon.
start doing that?
So I would say, I'm trying to say it in correlation to where I've been. I
Roughly.
would say I started doing that when I came back to Subiaco. So that was when I was 15 years old.
Yep.
That's when I started doing lightly some strength training. So it was more like movements and stuff like that, core stabilization and all that. It
Hmm.
wasn't so much like packing on muscle. It was more, like movements, football movements.
Yep.
And then obviously I'll do technical stuff alongside that as well. But it was also around that time that I started incorporating cardio because obviously, I know, everyone knows a big aspect of football is running. I mean, football has changed as a sport.
Hmm.
And what I've noticed is the one who can outrun the opponents is going to win. Doesn't matter if you're Maradona, if you can't run, if you don't have any cardio, you're not going to last the 90 minutes, you know? And so
Yeah.
that was my methodology later on, so when it was like 15 years old, 16 and going on, right? And that's something I learned in Barcelona as well. The players were animals, Like I
And
was looking at my teammates and I
animals,
was,
animals
wow.
as in physically, or animals as
Yeah,
just
like physically and technically and just like mindset as well. I don't want to like describe the Barcelona thing yet. I'll leave it on later on.
okay.
But
We'll leave
but
that
they were
excitement
animals.
to close to the end.
They were animals. Like it shocked me because you can see that difference between European football and Australian football. Like it still
Hmm.
needs a lot of catching up to do. So coming back to the training sessions, when I was going to when I came to Serbia to play football, that's when my training sessions increased in intensity by double because although I had a lot of experience in Europe, like when I was younger, going to Barcelona, going to Partizan over here in Serbia, going to the Serbian national team and all that, I knew the difference. But when I actually came over here and started playing like whole seasons and stuff like that, that's when I realized, wow, these training sessions, these people are really, really different. It wasn't just a
Right.
matter of tournaments or camps. It was whole seasons. And I realized how much in quality and in strength they were above Australia.
Really?
So
So
accordingly, yes.
sorry. So you went off to Europe. You've done some of these camps over for Barcelona and Partizan and stuff like that, and then
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
come back to Australia, and the difference like massively shocked you. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
like for you, did you come back and just like everything was real easy? Like you're just walking around people and taking like having fun, basically.
You know, this is the thing. It was actually the opposite. It was harder because when you're playing in Barcelona, you're basically a robot. You know what you're going to do. 1-2
Mm.
touches, you're doing 1-2s. Everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone knows each other's names. Everyone knows what they're doing, and it's so much easier to play. But when you come back to Australia, like I did, it was just so much harder. Like the quality was
Because
drastic.
everyone's sort of behind you, what you're trying to do on the
Yeah,
pitch, they're not completely understanding what you're trying to do, so it's not in syncrasy or synchronized.
yeah. And
Wow.
I remember so many times I come from training sessions or games, and I would consider it a bad training session because I wasn't on like the same wavelength. And I'm just like there to my dad, I can't play with these people. They don't understand football. Like, how many times have I said it? I just can't play with them. They don't understand how to play football. They don't understand the 1-2s. They don't understand the third man runs. They don't understand it. And my dad,
Mm.
I remember him saying, "Look, I understand what you're saying, but whichever club you're going to play for in the future, it's not going to be Barcelona. So you're going to have to adapt to that." And that's I was like, yeah, I was a bit stubborn. I was like, but no, like I've learned high quality football. I should be able to apply that. And he was like, no, you got to approach it differently.
Yeah,
You
I think
you gotta like act differently around them,
yeah, that's understandable. I think okay, there's something I wanted to touch on, and then I think we'll get into that because we're going straight for it, and I know it's going to be a really hot topic, and I'm really excited to talk about that stuff. Um, we've talked before, and some of the guys that you've trained with or coaches that have influenced you. So Branko
Yeah.
Jelic.
Yes. So I've been in his academy for 5 years, and obviously I stopped when I came over here in Serbia, but
Hmm.
he was a he was a coach that really influenced me
Yep.
because when I was younger, or like before I came to that academy, I wasn't really that good at shooting, and I had a lot of areas in my football that could be improved a lot. And he was the person that improved me a lot. So his academy is J&J Football Academy,
Hmm.
and basically, I remember the first time I came there, he immediately recognized my talent. It was him and Adi Juric, like them two are the two horsemen of the academy. But they noticed my talent immediately, but also they noticed my lack of shooting technique. Like my technique for shooting wasn't that good. And so they were like, okay, we're going to do some like one-on-one sessions with you and purely shooting. Technical stuff, you're amazing at it, purely shooting. And it was Branko Jelic specifically that really helped me in shooting. Like he taught me some new aspects about technique. And it was like, okay, so when you're shooting the ball, you gotta whip it. You don't push the ball. You gotta whip it. You gotta unlock your knee. That's one of the things that are ingrained in my brain. You gotta unlock your knee. Don't push
Hmm.
the ball. Unlock it. And it was those teaching aspects that really helped me in my football game. Even now, it's still like the effect of it is, I mean, it's invaluable. You can't put a price on it. But
Yeah. Would you say
no, uh, yeah,
would you say it's a good thing to have lots of different coaches? Because it seems like each one that you're
yes,
describing has affected your game differently.
yes. They're all each and every coach has impacted an aspect of my game. Each and every
Hmm.
coach has a specialty. Going back to Branko Jelic, he's a striker. He played in Crvena Zvezda, a big club over here, Red Star Belgrade, the English
Yeah.
translation.
Yeah, I've seen that
In
he's played in the Champions League, he's played in the
yeah,
Bundesliga.
yeah,
Yeah.
he scored 2 goals against Oliver Kahn as well. And I saw that game on YouTube. He's a prolific striker. He came to China and he was one of the best like strikers there, one of the best footballers there in China. And then
I
he
mean,
ended his career somewhere in Perth Glory, I believe.
if
But
anyone's gonna teach you to shoot, a guy that's
yeah,
scored
it
against
would be a
Oliver Kahn's
striker.
not
It'd
bad.
be a striker that scored against Oliver Kahn, which is but no, actually that brings me to a point because when I was at his training sessions, he would bring all these good points like unlock the knee, um, like open your body and stuff like that. And after the training session ends, I'd have these sticky notes and I'll just write them down. I still think I have them somewhere around the house, but I'll just write all his like advice on the sticky notes and I'd review them like before and after the training session.
Mm,
I remember those days. I would just sit in the
homework.
car. It was hot, obviously, because it was Australia. It's always 40 degrees. But yeah, like I'll just review the sticky notes, and that really helped me. Really, really helped me. And
Do those
later
do
on,
those do those sticky notes still stick to stuff?
No. They've lost the stickiness. They
Yeah,
stick
I
to
bet.
each other. So like what I did was I put like one sticky note, then I attached them like, and it would just be a cluster of sticky notes. But no, like they can't stick at all. They've lost their stickiness.
I bet
But
that 40 degree heat sure takes it out of them.
oh yeah. Surely took my spirit away from my soul.
Yeah. Uh,
But
uh,
no, like the J&J Academy really helped, and it wasn't just at the start. Later on, when it was like group sessions, obviously we would like teach different types of shooting. So crosses come in, you'd have to like volley it, or it would come on the ground. And I'll give you an example. So one of the things I really struggled with was a situation in football. So when a winger or something comes from the wing and passes you the ball on the ground, you would
mm,
have to know how to shoot it in the goal and for it not to go over the goal. So
mhm.
you have to like judge how the ball bounces or how the ball rolls to you. So
Yep.
one of the things he taught me was timing. Timing is how did I not mention this earlier? Timing is one of the greatest lessons he taught me
Mm,
because as a striker, he taught me that it's not so much physicality or all this stuff. A striker is a different position because you gotta time it right. Because when you look at strikers nowadays, you have all sorts of bodies. You have Lukaku, like Lukaku is an example, right? You'd think he's a bodybuilder, he's like, what is he doing playing football?
mm,
Timing. He knows when the ball's going to come to him. He changes pace. That's another thing, another advice that he gave me, change pace. Because I was always like playing football at the same pace. He was like, no, when you're going to senior level, you need to change pace. And so combining changing pace with timing gave me the ability um to shoot the ball better. Because when
mm,
he's crossing it, you're waiting, change pace, and then you do like you obviously timing it right. And when the ball comes, body over ball, you have like a certain distance you have to judge. And when the ball comes, body over ball, you hit it with your insole, and then it goes into the bottom corner or in the top corner. It doesn't go over the goal. That's one of
yep.
the biggest challenges I faced, and he basically taught me to conquer it. So yeah, it
Yep.
was really, really good. It was a really good man as well. Branko Jelic really taught me a lot of stuff, and I don't want to like forget about Adi Juric as well, his companion there. He also taught me some very valuable stuff in terms of volleys as well, and in terms of breathing. So as I mentioned, everyone has their own like aspect that taught me. Adi Juric was volleys and breathing techniques. So for example, when you do ladders, right, you have to you have to breathe when you're doing ladders. So each step you go. When I was doing it, I was just
Holding your breath.
doing that. Yeah, we're not holding breath, but breathing incorrectly. And
Mm,
so he was like, you gotta do it like that. He taught me that, and that's very valuable, not only for ladders, but for football as well. When you're changing pace, when you're combining some other person's advice, Branko Jelic's advice for changing pace, with Adi Juric's advice on breathing, then you're putting together a whole methodology of football. You
yep.
know what I'm saying?
I've seen I'm glad you talked about breathing. There's actually an interesting thing I seen the other day where they were talking about penalty takers and free kick takers, right? So now
Yeah,
you see like Harry Kane or Cristiano Ronaldo, people that are about to
yeah.
take their penalties or free kicks. Basically, a study was done, and it was done on snipers. So how these guys with their sniper rifles, and these guys are like kilometers away from their targets and stuff like that, right? So when you're that far away, there's a lot of things that can disrupt the shot. But to try
Mm,
and minimize the issue or the movement of your gun or something like that, basically
distraction.
they try and get their shot off at the end of their breath. So
Mm,
if you breathe in, breathe out. Once you've fully let all that air out, they then take the shot. Because if you're trying
mm,
to take it while you're trying to breathe in or kind of movement, this actually raises and stuff like that. So apparently they're using the similar techniques when Harry Kane and that's taking penalties, which you'll see like guys take a deep breath, they'll breathe out, finish their breath off, so they'll be the end of their breath, all air is out of their rib cage, then they'll shoot.
Mm.
That was apparently taken
No,
from snipers.
that's a really interesting point actually, because we always mock like Ronaldo or whatever doing the breathing, but you never really think about the practical aspect of it.
There's
Like
a
he's
meaning behind
doing
it.
it, he calms his body down, and then
Lowers
at the
his
end of
heart
his
rate.
breath, he shoots and he gets more power out of his shot.
Yeah.
More focus.
Yeah, he lowers his heart rate and he's at the end of his breath as well. So yeah, there's I'm sure there's a lot of science that's behind a lot of the things they do. All right, so another coach that I wanted to talk to you about was Ian Ferguson.
Yes. Okay, so I'll give you some context. So after I was at Sterling Lions, I basically moved to Melville Murdoch, and after 1 year I moved to Subiaco, and then I was there for 2 years, and then I moved back to Sterling Lions. It was called Sterling Lions, but now it's Sterling Macedonia.
Mm-hmm.
And the first team coach was Ian Ferguson. And so basically,
who's played for Rangers and Scotland national team.
Yeah, I think he was a better footballer than Sir Alex Ferguson, actually. I remember like looking at his Wikipedia and I'm like, wow, he was a better, way better footballer than Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah.
Maybe on the managerial level, they're like, but on the football level, Ian Ferguson's up there. But no, he was first team coach for Sterling Macedonia. He was a really good coach because towards like the last, I would say, 2 months of the season, he called me and another kid as well over to train with the first team because he saw I was performing well and stuff like that. And a lot of the first team players were like, get him to train with us, And so the coach was like, okay, you can train with us. And for a solid, the first month was on and off. But for like the last month, I was training with them non-stop, and it was amazing. It was a great practice for when I was going to come over here, that's for sure. But Ian Ferguson, funny bloke, very funny bloke, but like, he understood what I needed, and he was like, "Yeah, train with us." And he didn't like, comfort me or whatever, coddle me. No, he was like, "You're training with them. You're like everyone else," and I really respect that. He was, really, really good coach. And I had a very, very good time training with them.
Yep. Beautiful. Very good. So yeah, looking at sort of your CV and things you've been through. So let's start talking about the academies. All the academies you've gone through. Where do we start? Where was the first one?
Oh no, you pick one.
All right. Let's start with the Serbian national team. What was that like? How'd that come about? Yeah.
So basically, we were in contact with some people at the Serbian national team, and they're like, "Okay, we're arranging like a camp of some sort," and he was like, "Okay, let him come." And so they registered me in their database, and I went there for 2 weeks. It was good. It was a good learning experience. I do have to say there were a bit of road bumps here and there because what I will say was that some of the boys there weren't as like kind and caring as say in Australia or whatever, because they were looking at themselves. They were like, here's competition, He came from Australia. What does he know? Like he's coming over here in Serbia. He thinks he's someone. But I didn't really let that get to my head so much. I kind of showed it in football, and in one, like we played one or two. No, it was, I'd say, 3 friendlies, because in the camp we would play against some like Serbian teams of same age, right? And
What age was
I'll
that?
say, well, I think he was like around 13
Yep.
years old, something like that. But
Yep, so
yeah,
roughly
in one
13.
of the games, I scored 2 goals. Like the best player there, and some of the boys were starting to get jealous. And so I was like noticing it, and they were trying to like ostracize me and stuff like that. But again, all of that is learning, right? Even though it was a tough experience for me, even though like I was crying in the bit like in my room or whatever because of such bullying or whatever, it's all learning experience. It all toughens you up. And honestly, I'm thankful for it. Even though it wasn't the best experience, I'm thankful for it, you know. It's definitely a learning step. And the one thing I can't forgive was at the end of the Serbian national team, like they had like a presentation and they were going through all these players and stuff like that, and they were giving them awards. And basically, who's the best player in this like age group, because it wasn't just our age group, it was older and there was like younger and stuff like that. It was the whole like age group, right? But they were like, okay, so we're gonna award this player with the best player in this age group, right? And it came to our one, and I was like, okay, I performed really well in all three games. You know, I performed exceptionally at trainings. You know, it's gonna be me. But then they chose this Bulgarian guy, and I was like, this is not right. But I was good friends with this Bulgarian kid, right? And we still are good friends, right? He played in. I'll give you context. Last year he played in Lazio for under-19s, and he played in their Champions League, and then he returned now in Bulgaria, and he signed a contract at Ludogorets, right, as a first league team, and he's playing well. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but when his own father came up to my father and said they were both exceptional, but Bojan deserved it, I was like, you know what? No, he deserves it for the humility, you know? He was like, no, this isn't right. Like he deserves it. And I'm happy to concede the award to him, you know, like I'm really happy at how humble he is. And so, you know, like it surprised me because a lot of players there, they're not humble. They're like, I deserve this, I deserve that, you know, like he's a terrible player and all that. He was like, no, you deserve it. And honestly, like he was one of the very few friends I had at that camp. Hats off to him, you know.
Is that rare? Is that rare to find kids that are these camps that you go into with humility, or is it a lot more arrogance and
It
people
was rare
thinking
at that camp. It was rare at that camp, and it's rare in Serbia. It's rare here in the Balkans because you kind of, I guess you're kind of raised with that mindset that if you don't think you're the best, if you don't like just grab what you have, then you won't get out of whatever situation you're in. It's different if you're in Australia and Western Europe. It's like football isn't everything. In here, it's like football is everything because that's the only way you can get out of, for example, poverty or something like that. And so they have a different mindset. I don't blame them, but it's not a good mindset for football. You have to be humble and take it from me, you know?
Yeah, interesting. So that camp, so how many was it? A couple of weeks, and you
2
lived
weeks.
there 2 weeks, and you
So
lived
yeah,
there.
they have awesome facilities. So it's the facility, the same facility where the national team trains at, right? And they have this like hotel built into the facility, and the room's exceptional, like the pitch is exceptional, the ball's exceptional, everything's exceptional there, right? Because obviously it's the national team, you know, and it's for all age groups, they're all together. And so I can't complain about the facilities and all that. But yeah, it was amazing. Like in terms of that, it was amazing.
Yeah. Would you go back there? Or are you planning on going back there, or?
Well, if they call me, because I'm not that type of person now to beg, because they have me in their database, and I
Yeah,
already
so
know.
they'd be keeping an eye on you.
Yeah, they'll be keeping an eye on me, and I'm not like, look, I'm not desperate for that. If they want me, they want me.
Would you ever play for the Australia setup? Australia junior teams?
So, yeah, interesting question because everyone's asked me, my family, my friends, and everything. They're like, when you become a professional footballer, who are you going to play for, Australia or Serbia? I answer with this: whichever team asks me first.
Okay. Yeah.
Whichever team asks me first, because realistically speaking, I'm eligible for both, right? And if Australia come here and say, "Look, you're a real talent. I want you to represent Australia in like the national team and stuff like that," I'm going. I'm gonna like pay for my ticket. I'm going. If Serbia, if the Serbian national team come and say, "Look, we've got an eye on you. Come play for us. Represent us." Yeah, I'm going.
Yeah.
It's not much of a struggle for me in terms of like who am I going to pick. If they've come at the same time, then that's a dilemma. I think like no offense to Australia, but I'm over here in Serbia and I'm ethnically Serbian. So I'm kind of leaning whatever happens, happens. Whoever calls me first.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So we've sort of covered national team stuff. I think maybe it'd be good if you gave us a list of the teams, the academies you've been to in Europe.
Yep. Yep.
So let's go there.
It would be a pleasure. It'd be a pleasure. So I'll list them all. I've been at Partizan camp for 2 times. I've been at the Serbian national team once. I've been at Juventus camp twice. I've been at PSG Academy in Perth once, and that was linked with J&J Academy. And I was actually supposed to go to Paris, but because of Corona and stuff like that, it messed it all up. I've been at Real Madrid camp once. I've been at Barcelona camp 3 times. I've been obviously representing Barcelona Catalonia Escola once for a month.
Sorry, so I'll just stop you there for a second, just so people at home understand what that means. You represented Barcelona, actually Barcelona in Barcelona, didn't you?
Yes. So what they have is, I'll explain. So the tournament was an Escola, that's what they say, Escola, the school tournament. And they basically have Barcelona schools all around the world. So they have one in Rio de Janeiro. They have one in America. I think it was, I believe, Los Angeles or whatever. They have one in Nigeria, Lagos. They had one in Russia, Moscow. They have one in, obviously, Australia, right? But they didn't have one in Perth, Australia. They had in Brisbane and Sydney. But because I was exceptional in those camps, they basically chose me to represent not just in one of the tournaments it was Sydney, but for the main tournament, it was for Catalonia, Barcelona. I got to represent me, and there was this one other kid that represented New Zealand.
So you got chosen.
He's Brazilian.
So you got chosen as the top player from Australia, right?
Yes.
Out of all these camps all across Australia that Barcelona had, all these kids come out to, and I'm sure there was a whole lot of kids that came out to those. You got chosen as the top talent. Barcelona took you over to Spain, Catalonia specifically. And then from there, you didn't just turn up at the tournament and play for a team. They then wanted you to play for their team.
Yes. And it was actually quite surprising. Should I go in depth with the Barcelona?
Let's go there. I'm really excited for this fight. Please tell me what La Masia is like, and what was it like? What's day one? So you arrive, you get picked from this camp, and they send you over.
Yeah. So basically,
how old were you? How old were you first? Roughly.
I was 14 years old, 14, 15, something like that. Yeah, 14, 15. And basically, I'll start from even before I come to Barcelona, when I get that email from them. So I remember I came back from state team trials, and funnily enough, it was the last round of the state team trials, and it was like the email came, "Unfortunately, you're not selected for the state team trials," and I was pretty bummed out. And then like I prayed to God, and I'm like, I need something to cheer me up. An email comes, and it's from Barcelona, and they're saying like, can you represent like Catalonia, Barcelona in this tournament and stuff like that? Would be for a month, and like we'll sort out all the accommodation and all the flights and everything. And I was ecstatic, right? I was like, not only am I going to represent Barcelona, like Catalonia, Barcelona, right? Their school of football, but also it's all paid for. right? It was amazing. And so I went over there, and I remember we requested 3 days before what they wanted because we wanted to see the city and all that. Barcelona is beautiful. It's a beautiful,
Mm.
beautiful city. And
Yeah, I've
so
been
we were
there.
there three
Amazing.
days, yeah, 3 days before the expected arrival. And they paid for all our accommodation, everything was amazing. But I remember when like the first training session and then the first games, like meeting those players again. I mentioned before, animals. Like they're just like animals in a good way, in a good sense. Like they want to win. They
Mm.
want to win. They're exceptional in like technical. In the technicals. Like
Yep.
they can dribble a whole team by themselves. It doesn't matter. You pick that guy that's center back. He can do that. You know, it's
So,
amazing.
so day one, you rock up, you walk into La Masia, and they how does that go? Like, can you just explain that? Well, that's like, what does that feel like? Like you're walking into the school where like the most prestigious academy on the planet
Yeah,
that
yeah.
produces football, like superstar footballers left, right, and center. You
You know,
must have been
I'll,
super
I'll I'll
excited.
actually say the first day. I'll actually say what the first day was like. So basically, we were at Camp Nou, so the actual stadium, right? And we was like there was the introductory, and basically I was there where the buses were going, like all the buses in the parking was, and I remember seeing all the schools there. So as I mentioned, like from Nigeria, Lagos, from America, Los Angeles, and like from Brazil and all that, right? They were all
Mm.
lined up in their files, and I was going like I was expected to meet the Catalonian side, right? And I go there and I meet all of them exceptional people. Some of them can speak English, some of them can't. The coach can speak English, but I'll talk about the coach later. But basically, we were there in a group and they took us into the stadium and we were all like, we were sitting on the seats and stuff like that. And it was actually, it was so surreal because we got to see the actual like Camp Nou. And I remember thinking, wow, this is bigger than I expected. Like, this is bigger than I expected. And I got to like come out of the walkway, like the entrance, like the tunnel, right? I got to go through the tunnel and onto the pitch, and my dad was filming it, right? Like filming it, and I was a kid, like it was funny. I was a comedian. I was walking out of the tunnel and I was like acting like I was a player. Yeah, all the fans there. I have the video somewhere, and then I sit on the seat and I'm like, acting like I'm some Pep Guardiola. But no, it was really good. So after that, we got to sit on the seats and they were introducing the whole like tournament and stuff like that. And it was just surreal. Like so many kids. I remember we were sat next to the Barcelona school in Istanbul. And I remember that, like in one of the tournament, like one of the games in the tournament, they're like they're praying, like they're Muslims praying, right? And I'm like, wow, it puts you into perspective. It's from everywhere in the world, from like every corner in the world. Like it's not just like in Spain, or it's not just like from Australia or whatever. It's from everywhere in the world, and it puts you into perspective. Like if this isn't the pinnacle of my youth career, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
But
Like you're sitting there, like the talent that was around you were like the best in the world, basically. Like it'd be
yeah,
pretty close to being the best talents on the planet, and you're
I
sitting
felt
next to
like
them
an
about to play a
imposter.
tournament.
I had like this imposter syndrome with me because I was
Mm.
like, man, I'm looking at all these players. I'm like, am I supposed to be here? I know I deserved it, but like, am I supposed to be here? Like, it feels right and wrong at the same time. It's that imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I wonder if like any of those players that you were surrounded by then have sort of come through and are playing first team at the moment, or from any of the big teams. But
That's interesting because I was trying to like, I have a list, a screenshot actually, because our games were like basically broadcasted on their like Barcelona like TV channel, right? And
Yeah.
I remember someone sent me a screenshot of like one of the games, and obviously it shows the roster, right? And I was looking at all the names. Obviously, my name was on there, but I was like looking at all the names, and some of the players I couldn't find. Maybe it's because Google was just being stupid in that regard. But I think one player, there was this Indian player that represented Catalonia as well. He was there for a while, and I think he's is playing professionally somewhere in England. I can't remember the team, but I'm
Mm.
like, yeah, good on him. And specifically about that Indian player, obviously all of them exceptional, but he's exceptional as well because in one of the games, I'll tell you, in one of the games against Santos, right? We were playing against Santos, and I basically come on at the end of the game so that there was no limit to substitutions. I was playing at the start, I come off and like a little bit of a rest, and I come on, right?
So sorry,
And
Santos. So is in like the Brazilian team?
so no, like the Brazilian location of
Oh,
the school. Yeah, but no, they're exceptional players as well. Don't get me wrong. They're
yeah,
probably
no, they are.
just as good as the Santos team, right? But basically, I come on and I do a dribble. They foul me, right? And we get a free kick, and this is at the end. And it was like neck and neck. This guy, this Indian guy, he gets the ball, places it down, and he shoots left foot, top corner. And like we win the game, right? And at the end of the game, like as someone was asking him, aren't you right-footed? He took the free kick, left-footed, and he scored top corner. I remember looking like, is this
At
guy for
14.
real? Is this guy for real? Like he scores with his left foot and he
Wow.
goes top corner. Like you wouldn't even think about like even professionals, you wouldn't even think like, oh, I'm gonna shoot with my weak foot just for the sake of it. He was like, oh, because it was the situation to shoot with the left foot, and I was like, what? Like, what is shooting left foot? You're right-footed. What are you talking about? Like, I
Wow.
remember like having a mental breakdown there, like obviously in a good mental breakdown, but like I was like, what? Where, like, am I in Mars or something? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So
And that's the kid that's like, I think professional now in England. So yeah.
yeah, I'm sure not like a few of the other guys are not far off.
Oh yeah, obviously. But I have a lot of stories to tell, by the way.
Yeah. Tell me. I'm all
Yeah.
ears. You don't get to hear these
But
stories too often.
I'll go through some of the players. So one of them was from Canada. Obviously, it's a Catalonian side, right? But a lot of the players were picked from other countries, right? And they were there for a while. This Canadian, I should have given him the nickname Alfonso Davies because he's like rapid. He was so fast. I remember we were playing against Rio de Janeiro, like the Rio de Janeiro in the semi-final, right? And I remember like I was passing him the ball. He goes from right back in our half all the way on the right side, like rapid, goes right side. He cuts in, he scores top corner, and that's the winner. I remember like looking like, bro, where have I come? Where have I come to? Like, honestly, this is
Yeah.
ridiculous. And then,
Wow.
yeah,
Um. Oh, so yeah, I'm trying to. Obviously, there's amazing players there, but what were the actual like facilities like? Can you give me a like sort of description of like what that school looks like, or what they have set up in there, or
no, fair enough. Hotel's amazing, like top notch, 5 star.
so, so there's a hotel
Food
at their
amazing, like,
academy.
huh?
So there's a hotel at their academy.
Yeah, yeah. But like basically, so we transferred. There were two hotels basically, one at the academy, and then we transferred to like another one that's close to there, right? And that's where we spend most of our time, right? But basically, the food amazing, right? Like a whole buffet, like you can choose whatever you want, right? The facilities. I remember going through like the middle of like the walkways and stuff like that. artificial terrain, like artificial turf there, artificial turf there, artificial turf there. Like there's 50 like pitches all around you, and you're thinking like, where have I come to? Like this is amazing. And I remember like walking. It was I forgot what the building was, right? But it was a pretty important building. But I remember looking at the Barcelona women's team, like the first team training there on like one side, and then like turning my head, and the under 16s were training there, and then turning my head, the under 19s were training there. And everywhere I look, it's just quality, like quality teams, quality players training.
Mm.
And it was just this enormous facility. You can look it up. It's just an enormous facility. I'm probably assuming you're familiar with it, like you probably looked at like Google Maps or something. Enormous
Yep.
facility.
Yeah.
And like we couldn't play on like normal grass. It was all artificial turf, right?
That's interesting.
That's
I,
yeah.
I, I,
Except for the final, which was real grass, right? And that was the final was held in the second stadium. So like the second stadium, I forgot what it was called, but yeah, the second stadium, and it was broadcast to like everyone in Spain, right? And I remember like looking at the stands, there were like 3,000, maybe more people in the stands, and I'm like, this is a professional game, like
yeah.
change.
But there would have been, I bet there would have been a lot of talent scouts there as well, keeping an eye on what's coming up.
Yeah.
Did you guys win that?
No, we came second. Do you know why?
Oh,
It was. I'll tell you about the final. So I'll tell you from the tunnel. We were in the tunnel, and obviously the atmosphere was electric. Our team it was nothing like in Australia or nothing like here. Everyone was pumped. Like they were speaking Spanish, like they were speaking, I think it was Spanish or Catalonian. Mistake me if I'm wrong, but like
hmm.
they were like, "Ah, vamos, vamos, vamos!" Like everyone was like gearing up for the final, and we were playing against Tenerife, right? And we come out of the tunnel, the whole like Barcelona anthem like plays, oh Barca, dun, 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 and everyone's like playing. I'll have that in video, but man, it was amazing. And then we like start the play, and it was quality like nothing else before. I was playing midfield, and I actually got a few shots on target, but I was playing very well, right? And then I come off towards the end, and this player comes on, and he scores a goal. Fantastic. 1-0. And then they equalize, and then it goes to penalties.
Oh.
And on the penalties, the tension, you could feel it. We were on the bench, me and this Brazilian kid who represented New Zealand as well. We were both talents respectively in each country. And we were there like, oh, this is nerve-wracking. It was 5-4, and then it came to our player, and he hits a thundering shot. He hits the post. And then
Oh
like,
no.
we lose the tournament, and we're
Was
like
it
we
the was
always
it the Indian guy trying to shoot with his knee or
no, no,
something?
no, no, no. It was a Catalonian kid, so it was local.
Yeah.
But he was devastated. Everyone was devastated. But the one thing that was interesting was that we got a trophy for second place either way. It was this massive trophy. It was like we won Champions League, even though we got second place, all right? But basically after the match ended, we were in the like changing room, the locker room. Everyone's devastated, right? I was devastated as well because I was like, I was so close to winning this. But then afterwards, like probably 15 minutes later, when everyone's like got their stuff sorted, like everyone's showered and all that and went out of the changing room, we went to some restaurant there. Everyone's normal. Like like nothing happened. And I'm like, this is interesting because they're in that mindset when they're playing football, right? But when they're outside of football, they're normal people. And
Hmm.
that was really intriguing to me because I was still devastated. I wasn't like them, you know. I was like, man, it was so close. I wish one of my shots went in, or you know, I was thinking that, and everyone else is like, hey, it's cool, like it's normal.
Oh, they moved on pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was really interesting, but I, it shows you like the level of commitment, the level of willpower. When they're playing football, they want to win.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
they're outside of football, it's just normal life, you know?
yeah. Um, did you find that over there, do you feel like
Yeah.
you were equal, or do you feel like you were behind them, or do you feel like they were like, did you get
So
there and go, wow, these guys are a level above me, or
so I'll tell you. So when I got there, I was feeling really bad imposter syndrome. I was like, oh, this is gonna I'm nervous, right? Like I obviously when you're
you
imposter
must have been like,
syndrome,
oh
you don't
God.
feel like you're there, right? Like you're like, I don't deserve this, even though you deserve it. It's like I don't deserve this, right? But when you're playing, I can never forget this till this day. This centre back, he had this like afro, right? He was white, but he had this like afro, and I forgot what player he looked like. He kind of looked like David Luiz, but not really. Like he had like curly afro hair.
Fellaini?
He was,
Fellaini?
huh?
Myron
Yeah,
Fellaini?
Fellaini, kind of like Fellaini, yeah. And it was like, hey, if you make a mistake, I'm there behind you. I'll recover the ball again. Just feel relaxed. Everything will be good. When he said that, I I immediately switched into like beast mode. Like I was tearing up everything. Like the dribbling, passing, and in fact, it wasn't so much dribbling because they valued passing more. They valued 1, 2 touches. If you if you took more than 2 touches, you'd better have a good reason to do so, you know?
Oh,
And so
wow.
it wasn't like a rule, but it was kind of an unwritten rule in the sense that like you're not like over here where you take the ball and you think, oh, I'm just going to dribble the whole team and that's it. It's not like
Hmm.
that, you know. You have to have
Yeah.
a reason. You got to have. It's the Barcelona methodology, you know. You got to like 1, 2 touches, tick tack play,
Yeah,
and
that's
so
literally exactly what I was about to say. It's literally how they play, isn't it? Like that, no one's holding the ball for long unless you're Messi. But everyone else,
yeah,
it's ball move, hit, like touch move, touch move, touch move.
it's like they got a power drill and like drilled it into my skull. Like you're playing tiki taka football, you know. Like they obviously weren't mean to me. They were like pretty friendly and stuff like that, and that's what I really liked about it because I clicked immediately. It was my style of football. Like I never felt like that before. In all the academies that I played in, all the clubs that I played in, I never felt like that before. You know? It was
Mm.
completely different, and it was hard to get obviously to get used to. Like when I came back from Australia, like to Australia, it was hard to get used to that. But it was just, I felt like a robot, like an algorithm. You know, it was just so natural to me. Like I,
Yeah.
I knew where to go. I knew like how to play the pass, like what passes to play. You know, it was just amazing. I remember like against we were playing against Toronto. I scored a hat trick then, and I felt I
Nice.
felt so it felt so good. Like I felt on top of the world, you know. Like I scored a header. I'm not even that tall when I scored a header. Like it was weird. It was a weird experience, but it was amazing. But no, it was just that Barcelona methodology. It wasn't just drilled into that like when I was at Barcelona. It was also like prior to that when I was in those football camps, because those football camps weren't for nothing. They taught us Barcelona methodology and how they played and stuff like that. They taught us all tactics, and it was kind of preparing someone if they were going to get chosen to go and play in the tournament. And obviously, I was chosen, and so those
Mm.
tactics really helped me. And obviously, as I said at the start, I felt imposter syndrome. I felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. But as soon as that like whistle blew, as soon as those people were like comforting me, I was like, I'm at home, and I
Yeah.
felt I felt equal.
Do you know, I love that. I love what that centre back said. Like I'm like obviously he was 14 as well at the time, but that's such good leadership, isn't it? And to hear that, and he must have maybe even sensed that a little bit in you that you might have looked a
Mm.
bit nervous or something. But that's wonderful to like give you that sort of confidence and to know that he's behind you and stuff like that, and it just opens you up and let you play free. So that's really cool. That's a good insight.
Yeah, and the coach, yeah,
what's the coach like?
Yeah. So the coach, he was amazing. Hands down, the best coach I've ever had, ever.
Why is that?
And because I'll tell you this, right? In the like a changing room or in like the locker room at halftime or before the game or like after the game, when we're talking about tactics, he would speak to all the other boys in Catalonian, and he wouldn't just forget about me. He would then go to me and speak English and explain it to me really well. So then when I was on the pitch, I knew what to do. And so when I was playing like a couple like the games, right? I was fully expecting like, okay, I'm new here. I came from Australia. The quality obviously isn't that good compared to Barcelona's team, right? So I'm fully expecting to like come on the last 10 minutes or something. This man put me on for every single game for minimum 75% of the game. Like it was totally different to me. Like I wasn't expecting that. But he instilled a confidence within me that I was like in that academy for 5 years already, you know, like it felt like that. You know what I'm saying?
Cool.
Like it felt like I was there for a while. Like that I wasn't just some kid from Australia that just came and
Because
played for them. It was like, what?
you're literally playing with like Barcelona's under 14 team or under 15 team or something.
Under 15.
Under 15.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was surreal, honestly. Like it was just I remember thinking, like, well, why is he putting me on? Like there's so many other players that are like experienced. Why is he putting me on? And he puts me on and I play well, and I'm like, this man is probably onto something.
Yeah, he must have liked you or must have seen something in the training sessions. So what was the training session like? Were they good? Were they different? Were they better? Harder?
I'll say one word. Rondo. Rondo.
Yeah.
Literally like practically 50% of the training rondo. Like
Really?
yeah. Like it was insane because like you would think, okay, they would have like some fancy tactics. They would have like, I don't know, like you imagine what it would be like. But it was 50% rondo and it made sense because their game was a rondo. Like when you go out on the pitch, it was a rondo when you really think about it, because it was teaching you to be calm on the ball, but it's also teaching the people inside, don't make a mistake, otherwise you'll be inside, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah. So those rondos, like obviously you're playing with players that don't give the ball away very often. And
yeah.
were they different types of rondos? Were they quite creative and like had different like different rules and stuff like that? Or was it just
Kind of
rondo,
simple.
2 in the middle, 3 in the
Simple.
middle?
It was simple, really. It was 2 in the middle. Sometimes it would be 3, but it was 2 in the middle, and it would be a circle, obviously around, and we would, obviously one touch. If you would had 2 touches, yeah, like nah, you're booted back to Australia.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm joking, but like it was one touch, right? Like they put pretty much emphasis on one touch, and it was interesting because one of the learning aspects was, can you handle the ball only with one touch, right? And so it was amazing. Like it was natural for me as well. That's the one thing that I'll say to anyone about the Barcelona. It was completely natural to me. And that's what was like shocking, because you would think go to somewhere else, like across the world, it would like you'd have a lot of time to like prepare and to like adapt. No, it was instant. It was like I played there forever, you know?
Yeah, wow.
And so also, I would say 50% of the training sessions were rondos. The other 50% were anything from passing to shooting to like long balls, you know, like basically those types of stuff.
Did
Like
they do much?
It was basically passing drills. A lot of them were passing drills.
Yeah. Did they do many whiteboard sessions with you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was much easier to understand as well with the whiteboard, but a lot of it whiteboard. You would have like one big whiteboard that the whole team can see, and then a little whiteboard that goes to each player, and like you do this, you do that. You obviously talk tactics,
Yeah. What did he draw? What was some of Barcelona's tactics?
So it was more movement, third man. There was emphasis on third man, and it was basically like um. So I'll give you an example. Basically, he was talking about how the pivots, the midfielders,
Yeah.
you don't drop back too much. You don't go wide too much. You stay in that center. He was talking also about um, wingers. Don't come in too much. Go out, expand the space because he was talking to one of the wingers, to this Brazilian kid, that if you go in, that puts pressure on the midfielder and that constrained space. Go out, more space. And then he was making emphasis on if you're going to go in, he goes out and you switch position. And then this midfielder goes here and it's a third man. It's a lot of third man running and a lot of team chemistry, like you got to understand each other's minds.
Mm. Did he have you
That
do
was,
like, so when you were attacking, was it sort of one formation, and when you were defending, it was sort of another?
yeah,
Yeah. So
basically.
like
I can't remember
remove
too
space
much.
when you're defending.
I'll be honest. I can't remember too much about the defensive aspect of it, but the
No one
attacking
likes to.
aspect.
At Barcelona, you don't do
I,
much defending anyway, do you?
I mean, we didn't have to defend too much, but like, no, genuinely, we didn't have to defend too much. We were really attacking. Like, we were
Mm.
really attacking in possession-based team, So like, it wasn't too much emphasis on defending, but yeah, it was like 94% attacking.
Yeah. Wow. Um. Yeah. This phone call could go for a very, very long time because there's still heaps more things that you've got to tell. Um.
Yeah.
But so where are you at your present time now? Where are you at? What are you looking for? What are you doing?
Okay, so in my present time, I'm playing here at a fourth league club here in Serbia, and basically I'm looking for a club like outside of Serbia, and some of the players were like, "Why have you come here?" Like we had a plan when we came here. It's more of like a springboard to something better. Our end goal isn't here. Our end goal is somewhere in like higher leagues, obviously. Like my end
Hmm.
goal is to play in a higher team in a higher league, right? But it was just to start over here, you know.
Where would you like to
But
play?
I wouldn't mind Germany. Germany for me, like their leagues are a well-oiled machine. They have fans, they have uh, good players, good coaches. It's a mix between Spanish and English football, in my opinion.
Yep.
Spain obviously is up there, but honestly, you just need connections. You know what I'm saying? Like one of the main elements in football is you need connections with people. It's not like before where it's like a scout comes to training with a like with a checkboard and like, yep, check this, check that. Yep, I scouted you, you're in my team. It's not so
So
that's
so
the biggest problem.
so is it hard to get those chances? Because you've been to some academies in Germany. We haven't really
Yeah,
touched
yeah.
much on that, but you've been to which ones? Oh, Augsburg and
So
um,
basically, with the J&J Academy, we uh, we went to Germany to play against some of the like big German academies, right? We played against Leipzig, Augsburg, and Hertha Berlin, and it was specifically with Hertha Berlin that one of the coaches, he was also like I don't know if he was Serbian, Bosnian, or Croatian. He was that like similar ethnicity, right? But he was one of the coaches, and he wanted me, but unfortunately, he was a coach for a year below me,
hmm.
so he couldn't really have a say in what like in getting me to go to Hertha Berlin. But basically, also what didn't help was the COVID times happened after that,
Hmm.
and it just shut down the borders, shut down every prospect. I was supposed to go to Europe, right? I was supposed to go to Paris for the PSG. I was also thinking about going to Germany to meet that guy in Hertha Berlin, all shut down because of COVID. Like COVID basically shut all that down, and it wasn't good. But for the German academies that we played against for J&J, I mean, I was neck and neck with them. Obviously, some of the players that were playing with me, they weren't on that same level. But for me, obviously, I had experience in Barcelona and all that. I was basically like with them, you know. That's the thing with me. With high quality football, I adapt immediately. With low quality football, I have such a hard time adapting. Like again, what I mentioned when I came back from Barcelona, I had such a hard time adapting to low quality football, and it was hard for me, you know. With high quality football, I go to Augsburg or Hertha Berlin. Them boys treat me like I was there with them since the beginning, you know. Like it was, they can sense quality, and that's why I'm saying I need to go to a club that's outside Serbia because here in Serbia, all the good players went outside Serbia. The ones that are remaining, they don't understand football. They try to like lecture you on some things, and it's like, look, mate, you're not gonna lecture me on that, you know. Like, realistically speaking, who are you to lecture me, you know?
So it's really hard to break into those academies, like full
Yes.
time.
Yes, 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 yes. Very, very, very hard. It's all connections. Even though it's better in Western Europe in terms of football, they still have some problems in terms of connections. And so right now, I'll tell you right now, I'm using my sports management university like skills to my fullest advantage. So I've created my own CV, my own football CV. I've basically fabricated a message and I basically copy that message and I look at all the teams in all the leagues in Western Europe. So I aim for third league, for example, third league France, right? Or fourth league France. I look at all the teams and I go on Instagram. I send them like my CV and like my message. And it's like, contact me if you're interested and stuff like that. And I've been just basically doing that like this whole 2 months, basically. I've gotten a few replies here and there, but it's been fruitless for now. But I'm still hopeful that something will happen.
Yeah, yeah. So you just sort of got to keep knocking on that door, don't you? And keep going to
Yeah,
those different academies for the
perseverance.
different things, and try and find that right coach that just takes you.
Yeah, it's more in terms of like, so for youth, a big emphasis was on academies because clubs doesn't really matter. Like you could again, I've been in Barcelona and I'm here now. You know, it doesn't really necessarily mean you're in Barcelona now. You're going to end up in Barcelona. You know, for in terms of youth, right? But when it comes to senior, clubs matter. Clubs definitely matter, and you have to be willing to sacrifice everything. So if for example, a French team saw my message and said, "Yeah, we're interested. When can you come here?" You got to be willing to sacrifice and say, look, I'm going to go to France now, drive all the way to France or fly all the way to France, leave everything behind and just try out. You know, you can't do it any other way.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, you've got to you saw your life sort of hung up, sort of waiting and then trying to push that chance and push that chance and try and get open that door.
Yes,
That'd
senior
be that,
senior football isn't forgiving, you know, like a lot of players waste their talents and mainly because of finances and all that. But luckily, it's not a problem for me per se. But still, I'm a humble person, you know. I realize that a lot of people they struggle with finances, they can't do that. And I'm not gonna elevate my position. I came from Australia, you know, and now I'm top of the game or something, you know, like I'm with everyone, you know, like I'm in the same game. I'm waiting for my offers, I'm waiting to see who's interested in me, you know, like that's the game of senior football really because football is an industry and a business and it's just hard to get get into it. Once you get into a club, once you get into that industry and that business and that field of connections, then you can't escape that, right? Like, for example, if you sign for a team that's in second league, there you go. You've practically made it. You can't like go down anymore. Doesn't matter how bad you play football, you can't go down anymore. You can only go up or stay at the same level, you know? The main challenge, the biggest challenge is to get into that business, into that circulation of connections. So what I mean by circulation of connections is get into that business where you know a lot of people, you know all these coaches, you know all these technical directors, and then you've basically set for football, you know. But
Yeah,
again,
well.
that's the main thing. That's the hardest bit, getting into that.
So you must have seen a lot of kids. There must be so many that have come and gone and tried and have failed. And
Yeah.
yeah, like how many would you say? But there must be thousands and thousands that come through every year, each academy trying and trying.
Yeah, academy is there to teach you skills and to get you experience. It's not so much to set you for senior football, if you know what I mean. That, that
Yeah,
that's
but
that's the biggest mistake a lot of people make, and I hope this ends up on a YouTube Shorts for you. But I'll tell you, the biggest mistake is people thinking that academy football will set you up for senior football. That's not right, because academy football gives you a sense of security, a false sense of security. Academy football is supposed to teach you the basics of football. It's supposed to teach you how to play with others, and is supposed to be a nurturing environment with you and coaches and with other players. Once you get to senior football, that's a completely different game. And I take it from me, it's a completely different game. You then have to think about, how am I even gonna like get into the vision of some of these coaches in these clubs? Not even like show your football. That's the sad bit. It's not even like it hasn't even come to that point where, oh, am I gonna show my footballing ability or whatever? It's, am I even gonna get a chance to show my footballing ability? That's the point. That's the sad bit, and that's why so many fail. They don't get the chance to show that.
so those like all these academies you've done to like Juventus and when you went to Hertha and stuff like that, are
Yeah.
they're their chances, aren't they?
Yeah, so you get to form connections with some of those coaches, but then again, it doesn't set you for senior football. You know what I'm saying? These coaches only like deal with younger youth. They don't really set you up for senior football.
So they
They're
don't.
they're really good in teaching you the school of football, the
Hmm.
technicalities of football. That's why I'm good at playing football now. You know, it's because of those academies and those schools of football, right? Don't get me wrong, they're like 100% useful. But when I'm talking about um getting you into that senior football, that that has nothing to do with that, you know?
Yeah. So like, because so say if you were at Partizan and stuff like that. So when you were training at those academies, they didn't go,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to move you into the senior team now.
Well, they have that's the thing. They have my name in their database. They know who I am, right? It's not like they've forgotten about me. They know who I am. And I've called them like a couple of weeks ago. Can I train with you guys? Right? Like, can I train with the first team? I've been at your like camps and academies and stuff like that. Can I train with you guys? And they're like, the coach isn't looking for younger players. They're looking for players from like overseas and stuff like that. And it's sad because you think, is that what Serbian football has come to? You know, like,
Mm.
I remember my dad like pacing down the walk, like the hallway, like, what do you mean you're not interested in younger players? Like, what does football come to? You know,
So
and
would you say that the pathway through Serbian football, so say playing for Serbian academy teams and trying to make a pathway through there is a bad pathway, like one that
only
kids should
only
avoid?
if you have no connections and they're willing to be playing there for like a year and then get sold out to Moldova or some other Eastern European team and then be forgotten. then amazing. Come here. Come here in Serbia. But if you're willing to make a living out of football, it's not enough. You have to sacrifice far more.
Yeah. So then maybe, obviously, I guess advice-wise, if you were going to give advice to some Australian kids who are trying to take a similar journey to you,
Yes.
maybe Serbia is not the right direction they should be heading towards. Maybe they should be looking towards somewhere different.
I necessarily disagree, because I'll say this. Serbia, although it's been a real challenge, real difficulty, it's really tested me. That's the beauty of it. It's really sharpened me and hardened me, and it's made me a lot tougher. My advice for the people in Australia or somewhere else in like America or Canada or whatever, come to Europe as soon as possible, because the quality of football is nowhere near where you guys are. Come to Europe and then adapt. Take a year or two to adapt to whichever country you're in, right? Because it took me a while to adapt here. Even though I'm Serbian and I speak Serbian and I know football, it still took me a while. I'd imagine someone who is from, for example, America or Australia, speaks only English, comes to Serbia, or like, for example, comes to Serbia, doesn't know the language, doesn't know the culture. It's going to take him far longer, you know? And so I'm saying come as soon as possible. Come over here to Europe. Be hardened mentally, because football's a mental game. It's not just physical. Be hardened mentally, be hardened physically, and then you're going to destroy everything in your path. That's what I'm saying. You just need to come to Europe as soon as possible. Choose a team. It doesn't matter. Like, my mistake was, okay, I'm going to aim for first or second league because I know my quality. And respectfully speaking, it is my quality, but that's not how it works. Start from third league or fourth league or even like lower, work your way up, and then form connections. That's the main thing. Form connections, and then you're set for senior football if you form connections. You know, if you've got someone like a coach, for example, or technical director or president from a second league team or third league team, and then like you contact them, they say, yeah, come. You trial out them, you impress them, you're set.
So your advice. So basically, say if a kid is like, all right, I want to go to England.
Yeah.
It would be better for them to go to Division 3 team and start their way there than to turn up at Manchester City's doors and knock on the door and say, hey, can I have a shot?
So Manchester City, unless Pep Guardiola is going to come out with a cup of milk and some cookies, I don't think it's going to happen. But no,
yeah,
like,
but I mean, like it's a better way, a route for them to get in. So don't try and go to the top. Try and aim a bit sort of lower and work your way up from there.
My advice is to humble yourself. It's not embarrassing for you to start out in, I'm just giving you an example, 11th League of England. Obviously, you're not going to do that, but it's not embarrassing to start there. What's embarrassing is if you end up there. And that's the real advice I give you there, is because don't try to shoot up as high as possible and then fall down. Start humbly at some like fifth league or some local team. Get used to the way of life, get used to the culture, the mindset of some of these players, and work your way up. Right? That's my advice. And then you're gonna get to the top with that advice again.
You know, like, okay, so that Barcelona under-15 team, right?
Yeah.
What's stopping? Is it hard for someone to go over and to make it into those?
So
is it?
So wait, what's the question again?
So, you know, like that Barcelona under-15 team that you went and did a tournament with, and so is it hard for an Australian kid to leave Australia, shoot over there, trial for those teams, and to make it into those teams?
I'm not sure how it is now. I think the program is discontinued, if I'm not mistaken.
But like full time into that team, live in
Oh yeah,
Barcelona.
so basically what I will tell you is they gave us an opportunity for full time, but they paired it up with scholarship, and the scholarship was something ridiculous, like $70,000 a year. And my
You were
dad
going to
was
have to
like,
pay
yeah,
$70,000 a year to
to
go to
continue.
take a full-time scholarship at Barcelona.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Like, unless you have some really wild connections there, that's basically the price for foreigners. And like, obviously, I'm not continuing there. But even like, I'll tell you this: even if it was free, even if I was given a chance to continue there, my dad said no because he explained to me I wanted, obviously, but as a kid, I didn't understand the full implication of it. He said this: the biggest talent there was that shares the same name as me, Bojan Krkic, right? He was a
Mhm.
talent at Barcelona. He went through their ranks and everything. He started out his professional career at Barcelona. And so he ruined his career at Barcelona because he started it from a top team. Unless you're Messi, which is a generational talent that comes every 1,000 years, right? You're not going to start at a top team and consistently perform for the rest of your career at that top team. You have to start, this is what my dad explained, you have to start at a lower team and work your way up, earn your way up, you know?
Yeah.
That's the only way.
I guess obviously, like you said, Messi made it, and there's a few other kids that make it. Actually, it's interesting that we're talking about this because I seen a study yesterday saying they did a study in Spain, right, where they looked at,
Yeah.
I think it was a year or a cohort, and they were looking at 182 children, and they followed those kids for 10 years. And at the end of the 10 years, only 12 of them made it professionally, which
Yeah.
is pretty
It's nuts.
sad.
I mean,
sad. But yeah, that's pretty wild, isn't it?
that's football, I guess. Like it's you can't hate the game, I guess, because that's just how it is. The best of the best. Or okay. I will say this: you can sometimes hate the game because the way it's structured doesn't always turn out as the best of the best become professionally. It used to be. I will say it used to be because you would used to like hear stories about this Brazilian kid comes out of these slums and then becomes the Neymar, like you'd hear that. But now it's more like, well, he has to get lucky first. You have to get very lucky to be in the spotlight, and
hmm.
then you have like a 1% chance or even less than that to become a professional footballer. It's way harder. I'm telling you, it's way harder to become a professional footballer in these day and age than before.
Yeah. Yes, it sounds very difficult. It did sound difficult before I spoke to you, but yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I suppose like your avenue that you're discussing and you're suggesting, I mean, a lot more kids are going to fail at, aiming for the top Premier League clubs and
Yeah.
turning up at those doors than if you aimed for third, fourth, fifth division England and sort of trialed there. You've probably got more chance of making that first team and then building from there. Hey.
Yeah, because I made many mistakes when I came here. Like I was thinking like I was doubting myself a lot. That's one of the main mistakes. I was doubting myself a lot because I was chosen to play for a team that was for like under 19s, and it was in the second under 19s league. So like, say you have like the first under 19s league, and then you have like a second one, second tier, right? I was there, and I wasn't playing as much, and I was thinking like, am I just like, am I washed? Like, what's going on? Like, am I not playing well? Am I not like, have I lost my talent or that? Don't enter that mistake because you're going to face so many difficulties at the start. It's ridiculous. The amount of difficulties I faced at the start, honestly, like, take off my hat from how I dealt with that. But
Like what?
uh,
Like what?
so basically, I'll say this. I had to deal with the culture from all the boys and how they were acting towards me, and they were just like terrible people. I had to deal with that, and alongside that, I get the ball, and the coach is screaming, "Pass the ball! Don't hold on to the ball!" and all that. And it was different from Barcelona because you don't have players capable of like playing with me, and also you don't have that structure to play with, and so you would pass it to another person, and he would take like 20 touches, and you'd be like, what's his favoritism? You'd have to deal with that, and also one of the biggest challenges I faced was jumping clubs and trying to like. So I'll explain it to you. So one of the clubs that I started with was in northern Serbia in Novi Sad, and basically my home is not up there, it's in Valjevo in western Serbia, and so I would have to travel 2 hours every week to go up there, stay at someone's house, sleep over there, and then obviously play football. I had to make those sacrifices, and it was not easy. It was not
How
easy.
how many times a week were you training and playing for them?
So it would be like 4 or 5 times a week, and then
Yeah,
obviously plus the game. And
yeah.
so
And
it was not easy
you'd
for
drive
me. And
you'd get up, you'd go 2 hours and stay there, like go to training every day, or you'd stay there the whole week, or
I stayed there the whole week, but it was so labor intensive. It was just like it was so mentally fatiguing.
hmm.
And one of the advice I would say is that try find a club close to you. Don't try like find a club, even though it's like up there. Don't don't immediately try like find a club up there, but you have to sacrifice so much, and like it just wears down on your like mentality. Try to find a club, even if it's like third, fourth league, just there, like close to you, so it's convenient at least. You're gonna like go through a lot of hardships, right? But just make that convenient to you, so you don't have to waste money on fuel, on accommodation, on all that. Because
Hmm.
we wasted a lot of money on fuel and accommodation, and on paying the coaches and stuff like for like training sessions and all that. It's common over there in Serbia, and it was one of the hardest challenges in my life, to be fair to you.
Sounds like it. So, who is your all-time favorite player?
Ronaldinho, 100%, 100%.
Ronaldinho. Why is that?
I mean, I base my whole game off him. Like I do so many skills based off him. He's my dad's favorite player as well. And I remember he was like, show the first time I saw a computer, right? He showed me and he was like, Ronaldinho. I think you remember that clip. Remember when he got those new pairs of Nike shoes? It was those golden shoes. And he was
Yeah.
hitting the crossbar like 3 times. That was the
Yep.
first video I saw of him, and
Yeah.
and of YouTube as well. Like, and it was just mesmerizing. I remember watching his highlights every day, and I was like, that's the player I want to be. So yeah, he's my favorite player.
I loved the smile, like how he was always so happy and stuff like that. It's a really nice,
Yeah, yeah,
I know, really nice
yeah.
icon to sort of see. Yeah, good, great player. Which team do you support?
So basically, it's not a simple question because the team that I support is Partizan, the Serbian team, right?
Hmm?
But in terms of like a good team, in terms of like Premier League, Man United, and I supported them because of Vidic, Serbian player, and also because the first time I saw them play, my grandfather supported Man City back then, and I was like, you know what? I just spot I'm supporting Man United. There's Vidic on the team, like I'm supporting Man United, and I stuck with them ever since.
Yeah, Vidic was a beast.
Yeah,
Terrifying
the
centre back.
best
Yeah, I would have hated being a striker.
in my opinion, one of the best defenders ever. One of the best, if not the best.
Yeah, yeah, he's hard to argue. He's not like he's definitely up there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Um, what if you could have a superpower? What would it be?
Oof.
Super speed, super strength, flying,
Oh,
invisibility,
oh, no,
super
I
smart.
someone asked me that question a while ago, and I had like a super smart answer, but I forgot about it. Wait, hold on. I think okay, this is very football specific. The ability to kind of slow down time and to like see everyone like before you receive the ball. And so So you're not like taken off guard and to just like play football while everyone's slow motion. So that's like
Yeah.
my superpower.
Yeah, cool. I like that. I like that. And it's different because everyone else has said flying, so I like that a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pasta or pizza?
Uh, I like both. Can I say both? Nah, I'm gonna say one answer. Pizza if it's a good pizza, but
What
on any
what's a
other
good
day,
pizza?
yeah,
What's a good
pasta.
pizza?
Huh? Just a normal pepperoni pizza. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
really like too many added stuff. I just like normal, original.
Yep. Fair enough. If you played a sport other than football, what would it be?
Hmm. I can't play. I can play basketball, but I'm not tall enough. I think it would be like it's something to do with like Olympic sports. So I feel like I might choose, you know, those like shooting ones, like the bullseye shooting ones. Probably
Yeah.
that. It's a cool sport. It's a
Did
cool niche sport. So I'd probably choose that.
Did you see in the Olympics the guy from Turkey?
Yeah, but Serbia won gold medal. That's what really pissed me off. Like the guy, obviously cool, right? Like his hands in his pockets, you know, like he gets silver medal. But Serbia won gold medal. Why is nobody talking about that?
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. It did look cool though.
Yeah, yeah, very
Um,
cool.
Last question. I think this one's an easy one for you. Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
No,
Messi.
sorry, just
I
assume
can't
that
I can't
from
disrespect Ronaldo. Like honestly, those two players to be at the pinnacle of the game for so many years, you can't compare them to anyone else. You got to
Mm,
respect Ronaldo. Like a lot of people compare him to like nowadays, and they say like, oh, he's terrible. You know, like why did we even consider him high? If you look at how I played before, he was neck and neck with Messi. Obviously, I choose Messi because it's more my type of game, right? But I respect Ronaldo 100%.
yeah, it's funny. I think from my perspective, I think a lot of people forget what he was like when he really just burst onto the scene. And
Oh
man,
yeah.
his debut, like if people, if anyone watches this and they look it up, Google him versus Bolton Wanderers, his debut game, just comes off the bench and is absolutely like just crazy. And hearing from Bojan in this episode about the players he played against and stuff like that, Ronaldo smoked the best of the best. Like we're not
Yeah.
talking about like just guys that have just turned up for a match on Sunday. Like these people have fought tooth and nail to get opportunities like Boyan's trying to get into the teams, the top teams, and he was taking the piss out of him. That's yeah.
And the best
Uh,
part was that Ronaldo reached that stage because of his footballing ability. Not because he had connections, not because he had like money or whatever. He reached that because he deserved it. And
mm,
that's something everyone like can learn from. And that brings me to just one last point. I will say this about my situation. I do have some contacts, but like connections, but my dad always says, if you want to play football at a higher level, you got to earn it. You got to deserve it. If you don't deserve it, go on the bench and sit there and shut up. If you deserve it, you deserve to play. And that's the main lesson of today. If you deserve to play, you play. And today, nowadays, you don't see that, obviously.
mm.
But yeah, that's one of the main methodologies that I go by as well.
But those like all those kids that you trained with and played with and stuff like that, like surely they were training every day as well, weren't they? Like it's like
Yeah,
everyone's training like non-stop, aren't they, at that level?
yeah. Funnily enough, I didn't learn the training ethic from them. I learned from a childhood friend. Basically, he played tennis, right? Different sport, but his training ethic was insane. Like, obviously, it's a different sport, but he would train like 5 times a day, something ridiculous like that. And obviously, I'll train like a, a lot, right? But it was nowhere compared to him. Like, he was insane. His name is Kent Yamazaki. He unfortunately passed away in Nepal, because of high altitudes and stuff like that. He was playing tennis at high altitudes and he passed away from breathing difficulties. But I could see him even before that. He was training nonstop, right? And I think he was from overtraining and like over expectations that he unfortunately deteriorated from that. But it taught me, not only did he teach me work ethic, but also he taught me the importance of rest, because you're human and you can only train so much. Like right now, I'll say my training schedule is every day I'm with the ball, right? That's not really labor intensive, but with cardio, I do it every 2 days, 10 kilometers, because I'm basically a psychopath when it comes to that. Like I enjoy being, in pain, in pain with cardio, and with strength training, I do it every 2 days. And yeah, that's basically my schedule. Obviously, team trainings come along with it, but yeah, he really taught me the importance of rest and of working hard. So the duality of training, you need to know that balance, basically.
Yeah. So you do all that as well as team training?
Yeah. So like obviously I've taught myself it's not good enough to just team train. You have to train on top of that training. Obviously, you need rest when you need it, but at the same time, you need like either strength training or coordination training or like core training or anything like that just after training,
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of benefits by doing strength training, stuff like that. Yeah, like these things can make you like they injury proof the body and make you more explosive. And your actual like like the stuff that I've seen. So they'll do like a battery of testing and test your basically 40-meter sprint or your leg power and stuff like that. And if you're like if players are able to increase that and progressively overload that year on year, then you're going to become able to close down players faster and all sorts of different benefits. You sprint faster, 100%. So,
of course. Cardio is massively important in football. Massively important.
Yeah, and especially like by the sounds of the players that you came up against, like you said, they're physical beasts. I'm sure they were rapid and could close down space really fast. The box to box, they were making it really easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and physically as well, like even at that age, they were like pretty physical, So like I remember playing against Rio de Janeiro, and I was like standing next to one of the players, and that player basically represented everyone else because I was just so tall. I was like, you should be playing basketball. Like, what are you doing here? Playing football.
Yeah, wow. Well, man, I could keep talking to you, but I'll wrap this up today, and we might do another one sometime if you're free, because there's still other stuff I want to talk to you about. But
I would love to. I had an amazing time. I basically went down memory lane in this podcast. Like I was thinking about some stuff and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. And then I talked to you about that. I love this podcast, honestly.
Yeah, nice one. Me too. Yeah, no, I think a lot of people will get a lot out of this. Like your experience and sort of what you've just shared with people, and they'll be able to listen to it and take that information down and sort of utilize that and understand the expectations of what's needed. Yeah, I think a lot of people get a lot out of your story. So thank you very much for sharing that and your experiences.
No problem. I will say as well that if anyone wants to have any more questions, I think you'll link my Instagram down in like the YouTube shorts or like the whole like podcast. You'll link it down. So contact me on Instagram. On my Instagram, there's like my mail if you want to send me a message as well. Just send me anything, like ask me advice, like because I'm experienced in like just getting adapted to the style of football over here in Europe. So ask me anything. I'm over here.
Yeah, cool. All right. Thanks a lot, Bojan.
All good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, anytime. See you, mate.
See ya.
Hey team, I just want to summarise some key points from today's episode. It was pretty clear for me that Bojan's dad's philosophies had a large impact on his life and created some sort of like mental toughness that he's needed. And that's helped him sort of deal with some of the things that he's faced, especially like sort of that bullying and sort of the ups and downs of trying to like make it and then make it through these academies to try and push himself higher. And especially probably the corruption as well. I really liked how, like, although he admitted to being pushed hard by his father, and he even quoted his father as sort of somewhat a general, he thanked his father, which I think is really interesting and does have some value behind it. Like even though he's pushed, he sort of realised that helped him, and that helped make him, I guess, a better player and perhaps a better person. I really loved how he shared the effects that different coaches have had on shaping him as a player. Now, I think like everyone can gain some value out of that because not exactly like not every coach is going to know everything. And I really liked how he pointed out, like, he remembered that there was these key things that each coach had added to his game, or they you might have been like striking a ball, or another coach had something about timing, and there was communication on the pitch. And I think like perhaps players should be seeking out to learn from many different coaches to sort of maximize their progression. I think that's a good learning from today's episode. Obviously, Bojan spoke about some of the bullying and jealousy that he sort of faced. I think, which kind of makes sense because he'd be prominent in some of the camps and teams, and these players are fighting it out to get to these small amount of positions and to make it or break it. Some countries like Eastern Europe, there's a lot of poverty, so players are like fighting for their life, and there'd be a lot of pressure on them as well. But I think his father probably could take some credit here as well for the resilience that he's built in Bojan, and other players are going to face similar moments in their careers. So I think that's something to take on and sort of remember, and parents can sort of remember that when building or helping their children progress. Like, there's going to be knockbacks, there's going to be hard times, there's going to be players that above them sort of giving them a hard time, like especially if you're gunning for their position. They're probably not going to want to give that up too easily. So so toughness is definitely needed. With Barcelona and the other youth academies, I thought that was pretty interesting because it seems for me like it's really difficult to break down those barriers and to get in. Like, even though he's been selected by Barcelona and even PSG, and he's gone to Juventus and all these different academies, and he was selected out of thousands of children to be the top or one of the top talents, and he goes over there and he's training with them. He's training different ones and he's trialed, and he's still not guaranteed a spot. Like, he's still fighting it out, trying to find a way in. I think that they've learned a lot from that as well, like a few lessons. But I thought that was quite interesting. And also, like with Barcelona, he talked about how he went there. It felt amazing. It was playing with these top level players. They're all on the same page. They're all playing nice passes, moving for each other, understanding each other, understanding the game and how they wanted to play it. And then he came back to Australia, or he's been to different clubs, and he's found it quite difficult to play with players. And, he's had to make adjustments to his game, had a bit of a reality check. And I think that's important to note as well, because, not all teams are going to play tiki-taka football. Like, you might be playing for Everton, and you might, even like in certain points in a game, like you're strolling through a game, there's going to be moments in a game where your coach is going to be right, like final 10 minutes, we need to get a goal here. Let's go long ball. We'll play with two strikers and everyone just whip those balls in from anywhere, from deep in the pitch. That was probably good learning for him, I guess. I think also he pointed out a couple of times there about the corruption in Eastern Europe. And that's quite interesting. It's because it seems to have sort of stunted his playing over the last year or two. How like players are paying for their position, offering favours, and their families and fathers and stuff like that are offering coaches and teams favours so their son or their child can start, and players are missing out. He sounded quite frustrated about that, and if that's prevalent, that's pretty harsh and very hard for a player to take. I did like how he talked about, the distance of travel and how tough that was for him. Like he was going to that team, spending a whole week there, and maybe getting a weekend home with his family. And yeah, I can see definitely mentally how that's going to affect a player, and yeah, make it difficult for him to sort of focus on the pitch and what he's got to do. And I think, yeah, having that right environment and, you know, setting yourself up to success and being close to the pitch, I really like that piece of advice for him. And I did really like his advice about how he talked about players, you know, perhaps aiming for teams or leagues a little bit lower than the top, because obviously, you know, everyone wants to play for Chelsea or Manchester City or Manchester United, Real Madrid and stuff like that. But probably the fact is there's so many kids wanting to make those positions, and there's only so many. And, you know, even if you get in, you're fighting it out, and, you know, not a lot of them make it. But maybe lowering your game plan and going in a bit lower, you can get that team. You can make the first team a bit quicker, get some minutes on the pitch, and really show your talent. And then perhaps those teams are gonna notice you, and then that's more likely a way you're gonna break in. But either way, it's probably gonna get you, you know, more high percentage chance of you starting, playing, and progressing your career and showing your talent and, yeah, getting those games. So yeah, that was really good chat with Bojan. I really enjoyed that. That's all for today, guys. You can follow The Football Nutritionist on Instagram and X, and jump onto our blog at thefootballnutritionist.wordpress.com. Remember, keep fueling for success and kicking those goals.